or what?
I have more to do.
Oh.
How many people have registered, Barb?
You know, we stopped the registration and we changed it because I was explaining earlier, Zoom has some kind of a requirement that you have to have a certain type of account in order to, or you have to sign in from a certain type of instrument in order to get into Zoom. So in order to register in Zoom, you can listen to Zoom, but you can't register. So I thought, well, that's not going to work because we want people to not only be able to register, but to participate. So that's why I changed it, and everybody got a message that, you know, even if they registered, they don't have to. Here's the sign-in information.
Okay, so we don't really know how many people are gonna come on.
No, I think there were about, I think there were about 4 who had pre-registered.
Okay. So can you guys see this? Is this coming out backwards or is it come out correct?
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
correct.
correct. That's
Okay.
perfect.
Okay, so I just thought rather than drone on and on about the ag board, I was gonna do a quick introduction and then I'll put up the URL.
Okay.
You might want to put it in the chat as well. Then people can copy and paste it.
Oh, that's a good idea. Okay, I will try to do that in the chat.
And then, you know, you can tell people that it's in the chat.
Okay,
Yeah.
All right. Julie Noble's joined, but she's muted. But Julie, I love the new hat. I love
Hi.
it.
Hi. I work at Ryder Farm in Putnam County.
ah,
So nice to see everyone and thanks for hosting this.
Welcome.
glad you could make it.
Welcome.
I'm busy typing in my URL, so.
Fingers cold? There's more over there.
That came in, right, Lita?
Yep, got it. Good.
Okay.
No, that's perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll still hold up my little sign and then refer to the chat box. People can.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea to do both. Yeah.
All right. What else? What time is it? I've big screened it now. I don't have the time. Oh, we got 4 minutes.
4:56, yes.
I'll just introduce myself to everyone. I'm Josh Morgenthau from Fishkill Farms. Hey, Randy, thanks for inviting me. Since I think I'm going first, is there anything you want me to cover
Okay.
in particular?
So, while we're waiting, I was waiting for Tim to come in, but what we're trying to get the information out is basically from our knowledge and our experience of how we battled this season with COVID. Basically, summarize, you know, what your operation is and what kind of changes you made to comply with the requirements that were put on us by Ag and Markets or Department of Health to comply with COVID. And then what worked, what didn't work, what things you could, what resources were good to you, which ones were a waste of time, and so forth. And that's it. And then we'll, you know, run through everybody to do that and then take questions to try to help people if they have questions that maybe we can share some knowledge that will help them in their operation.
Sounds good. And should I try to, is that like 5 minutes per person or what do you think?
Yeah, if we do 5 minutes per person, then the questions that will work fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
All right. I think I was going to go with you first, Josh, and then Mike. Ashley asked to be moved a little bit back because she was going to join us a little later.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. And just a technical question. If I put this on gallery view, then I can see everyone who's coming on. Is that true?
Correct.
You can see up to 25. And
Okay.
then you'll have to slide your screen over.
Okay.
Okay.
See that Christine Meister is there. Hey, Christine.
Hi, Christine. Oh, here Tim Salinger's coming on.
Hey, Tim. Hey, Tim, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Randy, how are you?
Okay. I just was giving a slight rundown as what we're going to try to do. When it's, your turn, what we're trying to hear from you is what you did to get your farm through COVID this fall, what things worked for you, what things didn't, what resources were good and what resources weren't, were worthless, and any, suggestions or recommendations you'd make for someone, dealing with this as we go forward.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
And I figure if we take about 5 minutes per person, and then we'll open for questions at the end.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you. Sounds good.
All right.
I'm hoping more people will log in as we go, but I suppose it's 5 o'clock. I could say welcoming remarks. Work for everybody. Hi, welcome and thank you for joining us today. My name is Patty Peckham. I'm chair of the Agricultural, Farmland and Protection Board of Westchester County. Many of you have farms that are already in the county district, but if you would like to know more, I would suggest going to this website, and it is also in the chat box, so you can get to it easily. Every year, the our Agriculture, Farmland and Protection Board hosts a seminar on issues and topics that affect us as farmers. Cornell Cooperation Extension is partnering with us today and providing the technology. This year, the biggest struggle of 2020 is dealing and staying safe with COVID. And our roundtable today consists of farmers from different types of farms sharing their experiences, how they managed COVID pandemic, what worked, what didn't work, what they are planning to do with the second wave that inevitably is going to come if it's not here already. So our farmers on the roundtable will be Josh Morgenthau from Fishkill Farms, Tim Salinger of Salinger's Orchard, Ashley Yozo of Summit Farm, Mike Dignelli of Heritage Farm, Andrew Outhouse of Outhouse Orchards, myself, Patty Peckham of Arcadia Farm, and Randy Pratt of Wilkins Fruit and Fur Farm. Randy Pratt will be acting as the moderator, so I will turn the meeting over to him and he can give a rundown on the format for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Before we get going, just a few ground rules to make it so everybody can hear. If you mute your mics, except when you're talking, that makes it very good for everybody else. We won't have any background noise. So then when you come back on, obviously it'll be a little bit of delay. So just give a little patience till someone gets back on and we can hear them. I'd like to thank everybody who's agreed to participate with us today. Thanks for your time. Thanks for your knowledge. And thanks for sharing your experience through this time in our history that hopefully we will not experience again. But I'll go through starting with Josh, and I'm going to ask Josh to give us some background of what he does on his farm, and then how he's dealt with COVID during this season. And then we'll move through the other participants at the table. Okay. And if you have any questions, you can put them in the chat box. And at the end, Lita Blumberg will then be reading our questions, and then each of us will try to give you an answer that hopefully fits the question. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Josh to start.
Thanks, Randy, and thank you everyone for having me. So I am the third generation farmer, owner operator of Fishkill Farms. We're in East Fishkill in Southern Dutchess County. And the farm has changed a lot over the years, as most of ours have. But the model that's really worked for us and developed over the past 10 years has been on-farm, direct market, pick your own. And we've done pick your own for decades, but since I moved back to the farm after college, in 2007, we've really expanded, diversified what we're offering for pick your own in the various markets. So we have, just backing up, about 270 acres of land, about 150 acres in production, maybe 80 acres of which are tree fruit production. The majority of that is apples. We do some organic apples, about 10 acres, and all our vegetables and berries are organic. And then the rest of our tree fruit and the majority of our apples are IPM, and we're eco-certified, which is a kind of program, formalizing IPM, and there are some of the, organophosphates, other materials that, some orchards use, we don't use. So that's been a really, big part of growing the business over the years. We get, at this point, or, up until this year, we start our season pick your own in June with strawberries, about 4 acres of organic strawberries, and go into cherries if we're lucky, and there's a crop in early July, and then peaches and nectarines, plums, apricots, again if we have a crop, and then into apples and pears in the fall. And the season really peaks in September and October for us. On our peak weekend days in a typical season, we'll have about 5,000 to 7,000 visitors come to the farm over the course of a day, and it takes a big staff. I have a staff of about between 20 and 30 year-round employees, and then seasonally it ramps up to over 100, maybe 120 part and full-time in September and October, and probably 70+% of our revenue comes in September and October through pick your own, farm store, pies, donuts. We make over 10,000 donuts a day on the peak weekends in the fall, and fresh pressed cider, and then we've expanded into hard cider over the past few years. A good portion of our revenue starting in June through October is food that we serve on the farm. We have we're hoping to build out something more substantial, but at this point it's kind of a grill shack where we do burgers and hot dogs and jerk chicken. A lot of our farm crew are from Jamaica, so we have an award-winning jerk chicken recipe, and then hard cider, as over the past few years, built up, doing tastings and flights of hard cider on the farm. So obviously moving to COVID, it was really tricky. The whole season was tricky, but we had a lot of anxiety, March through May, about how we were going to pull off pick your own, and then again in August, as we look towards a whole new level of pick your own and crowds. But we worked, to implement a bunch of changes, a lot of which, I guess the silver lining of the season is that, some of the changes we've made, we're not planning on going back because I think they're positive, whether or not we're in a pandemic. But the most major changes that we went from, open admission to a reservation system. And that was, given that it was completely new for us, it was really, I'd say, a big success. Maybe a little bumpy at first, but it allowed us to, set a availability limit, both to cap the number of visitors to the farm at any given time so that we could make social distancing both among customers, but also between customers and our staff more easy. And also it came in handy, especially for our summer crops, strawberries or, other berries that we were doing, peaches where there'd be limited quantities. And often in past years, we would, the word would get out that we have, yellow peaches that were ripe, and a lot of people would show up on Saturday and pick them all. And then on Sunday, people would come, even though we've, over communicated, please call before you come, people would come and we'd be picked out and they'd be disappointed. So I think limiting the number of customers on the farm through the reservation system was critical. People, throughout the summer, in order for the reservation system to work, we felt like we needed to have customers make an upfront purchase so that they couldn't just, forget about the reservation. So we basically worked it out, picking packages for each crop. There was a set amount of produce, and the reservation was good for, a group of up to 5 people. And then if 7 or 8 people wanted to come, they'd have to purchase 2 reservations. So that, I think, was very successful because, it prevented intense crowds and lines that we might normally deal with, which would not have been okay this season, but also because it allowed us not to oversell our produce and allowed us to plan and staff according to the customers we knew were coming. So, we might not make as many pies if we didn't have that many reservations that weekend, and so on and so forth. The other changes we made are probably not going to be that dissimilar from everyone else because they're kind of legally mandated for the essential businesses, which as a farm, we're an essential business. So, having a cleaning protocol and training our staff on that, and emphasizing with postings and trainings, daily sanitation, cleaning and sanitation of surfaces, frequent hand washing, all of that sort of thing, as well as social distancing. And that was all part of what we had to do to make Pick Your Own happen. But one other interesting thing about the reservation system was that it allowed us, by doing it online and requiring visitors to make the reservations, it allowed us to sort of communicate our rules, and especially the new requirements, in response to COVID, such as you have to wear a mask when you're on the farm. Only when you're out in the crop and fully distanced from other customers can you remove your mask. That sort of thing. It allowed us to really require customers to read those new rules and then sign off and almost initial, quasi legally say, I have read the rules and I agree to abide by them when I come to visit the farm. So I think we actually had, perhaps a better behaved crowd this year than we would have otherwise. We also, with our farm store, we went to phone and online orders only in March. We actually saw a jump in sales March and April because supermarkets didn't have staples like eggs and we had them. So we actually did really well in March and April, but sort of a drop in a bucket because that's a slow time of year anyway. And then we really suffered June and July because we couldn't serve food and we couldn't have our cider bar open. So we were way behind, even though we had a little bump in April, May. We were way behind by mid-August in revenue because of that lost revenue. And then I just consider us extremely lucky in terms of the fact that no one on my team got sick, and the timing of New York getting COVID under control sort of coincided with Apple season. And, we were able to reopen our grill and the cider bar by mid-August. And I think people were so starved for activities and things to do, and they weren't obviously traveling, and they probably had maybe some income that they would have spent otherwise, maybe some stimulus checks. And so when we were able to reopen the bar and our grill and kind of gear up for a larger crowd in Apple season, we actually did very well, even though we never had the same peaks in any given hour or day. We were able to kind of spread the business out over the course of a week. And we were able to make up most of the revenue that we had lost. And so I'm looking at towards the end of the year at being with some PPP funding, like a slightly better than average season, which is pretty, I can't ask for anything more than that in a year like this. That said, I have no interest in reliving what we went through to get to this point. So I don't know whether I've taken more than my 5 minutes, but I'll stop and then let anyone ask questions if you want to know anything else.
Thanks, Josh. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's working out for you and the reservation system. Mike, you're up next.
There we go. Hi, I'm Mike Dignelli, and I co-own Heritage Farm with my brother Andre. We run a boarding and training stable in Katona, and probably like everybody else in the spring when COVID started to happen, I wasn't sure what to expect and what the year would be like. I did have conversation with Patty because Patty runs a similar business, boarding, training, or showing, teaching, buying, selling, things of that nature. Back in the spring, we were closed for about 3 weeks, and we then created a safety plan and were able to figure out a way to open the stable to the clients. Our clients own the horses, so they were part of the essential care. So from then until now, what we've done here is tried our best to follow the CDC guidelines, social distancing, mask wearing, and we've tried to, during the spring and summer, do as much of what we can outdoors. We do not allow the clients to enter into the building to protect our staff, like the grooms who care for the horses and the trainers. So we had established a protocol. When clients arrived, there was a schedule, and the horses were brought to like a handoff area where they were put into these stalls, and then the clients took the horses from the stalls, and then after they rode, they returned the horses to those stalls. We tried to limit the contact. During the spring and the summer, it was easier here. I'm sure that everyone is experiencing a similar scenario where now as we are getting into the colder weather, and that's driving people indoors, and the amount of daylight is less and the outdoor activity, is curtailed by colder weather, it becomes more challenging. We didn't have any cases that I know of here at the farm. We did have some employees and some clients get caught up in contact tracing, and we kind of followed the same protocol where, myself included, I was notified that someone I knew that I had seen and been with had tested positive, so I had to quarantine and get tested right away. And I basically relied on the CDC guidelines to monitor, or to modify my plan. Not to modify my plan, to really to follow the plan. And now that we're in the indoor weather, we're working off like a schedule. We don't allow too many people here at the farm. We are kind of booking the day so that the clients show up. There aren't too many people here at one time. We're asking some of the moms to kind of arrive at the farm and wait in the car if there are too many people here. We have also followed the CDC guidelines for break rooms and gathering rooms, lunchrooms of that nature. I don't want to encourage, I want to discourage like the kind of gathering and socializing that people really like to do in normal times. A stable and a riding facility is social, and there's like an experience, that comes along with it. People don't want to just like ride or show up and kind of do their thing and get in their car and zip out as fast as they can. But they have to do that outdoors. One of the things that everyone is probably struggling or experiencing now is, earlier in the year, COVID really got going like in March. So we didn't have like a full season, a full winter indoor season of COVID. And I think what's different now is that, the indoor season really starts in October, and we will have a full winter season. And there's been a real effort with my group for the management to not let our guard down. The vaccine is on the horizon, which is exciting, and I'm looking forward to that, and what that will bring. But everyone is getting tired of this, and my message to everyone is to continue with all the safety measures and not to become lax, even though it is what has been explained as COVID fatigue, in terms of the continuing of these practices. If anybody has any questions for me specifically as to what we're doing, they can ask them in the chat and I'll be glad to answer them. I don't know that I could add more to it than that.
Okay. Thanks, Mike. I appreciate that. So, did you have to actually quarantine yourself for 14 days or took a test and then got back in the saddle?
So I waited 4 days after the contact tracing and went for a rapid test. I recently traveled to Florida. I just got back yesterday. I was in Florida for 10 days. And while I was there, I went on the website in Wellington, Florida. There's a community center. So I got tested while I was in Florida, which was very easy to do in this community center. I just made an online appointment. I showed up. I was in and out of there in 10 minutes. 2 days later, I got my results. And I'm going to go on. So I've been quarantining since I'm home, which really, I cannot stop working, but I've kind of doubled my distance from everyone. And I am set up in the office where nobody can come in. And I'm going to go on day 4 for a test here, just to be
Okay.
careful. One of the things that I could add to it is what I did was we have like the office staff And we do not allow, I did this just on my return. Like a lot of clients would come in to ask a question. A lot of employees, vendors would come in to this office where 4 women were. And we decided to lock the office and kind of meet people outdoors for like any questions. But I don't want random people to come into the office. I don't want the hay guy, a UPS guy, a mailman. You know, we have a drop box outside. Even clients, you know, to drop off a check. I'll meet anyone anywhere to grab a check. uh, but you know, we made a little lockbox outside, and I think that that kind of thing protects the 4 women that are in the office because they can't control who comes in, and
Eh,
you know,
I think that works for everybody, and I even think that's what people coming to deliver stuff prefer to do anyway.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Good, thank you.
Okay.
So, Andrew, you're up.
Hey, how's everybody doing? My name's Andrew Outhouse from Outhouse Orchards. I work at Outhouse Orchards with my father, Wayne Outhouse, and my brother, Jesse Outhouse. And we've been running a pick your own style agritourism for about, I guess, since my dad started it up in the 1970s. And then my brother and I have continued on helping him out since we both graduated from college in the early 2000s. Really, basically all of our life, we've had to work there in some facet. So this year presented many challenges and questions. And in the beginning of the summer, my brother and I were pushing hard for a reservation system. We felt that this was going to be most beneficial for controlling the amount of people. Historically, we see our busiest weekends in the end of September and early October, peaking around Columbus Day weekend. A lot of the times we've had some issues with our town where our traffic volume has caused us to shut down the exit off of Interstate 684, which you know, it's annoying for us because we want the people to come, but we also want to have safe passage for emergency vehicles. So finally, when we were able to do the reservation system, we had clearance and everybody was in agreement that the reservations were the way to go. I used a website called Eventbrite. There's many like it, but I felt Eventbrite might have been the simplest because I've used it before in the past, and it's allowed us to control our crowds very, very responsibly. And it's something that I think Josh, I'm seconding what he said, is going to be something we can carry on in the future. Eventbrite allowed us to spread out the crowds throughout the course of the day. We do rely on the people to abide by their time periods and the time slots that we've allocated for each day of the weekend. But Eventbrite allowed us to take where we would possibly be getting 1,000 to 1,200 cars in our parking lot in one day, and we capped it at 750 per day. And what we did was we took our time slots and we divided it by 3. So we would have 250 cars maximum for our maximum capacity for a 9 o'clock to 12 o'clock slot, a 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock slot, and then finally our 3 o'clock to 6 o'clock, our closing time slot. So we kind of relied on customers to come in and abide by those reservation time periods. And they did for the most part, which was great to see. We were able to have pretty much a complete parking lot turnover between our 9 to 12 and then our 12 to 3. So that allowed everybody to get spaced out very nicely. In the past, we used to see like a ramp up of our crowds starting from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and we would be at maximum capacity with about 1,000 cars in our parking lot on our busiest days. And that ended up kind of causing a lot of congestion. Lines would form, people were getting a little irritated, and we noticed this year that all of that was gone. Lines rarely formed, and if they did, they were spaced out. People had more pleasant experience. they were able to, be at the farm and not have to feel like that they're in New York City or at an amusement park for the most part. So this is going to be something I think we're going to continue on using in the future. I think that's the biggest thing that we've got out of the, this COVID pandemic is being able to space out crowds pretty well. The second thing that we used at the farm is that we have an outdoor farm stand that we turn into our little grocery store where we're selling local produce that we grow, maple syrup, jams, jellies, pies, donuts. And what we did was we kind of took a page out of, I hate to say it, but we took a page out of Stu Leonard's playbook, and we turned our little farm stand into a one-way traffic zone. So just like Stu Leonard's has their grocery store mapped out, so you have one way in, one way out, we kind of did the same thing. We did put down spacing markers, just like they do in grocery stores. Unfortunately, just like if you're in a grocery store, people do not really abide by that. So it was up to us to use our employees to help space things out. That was definitely a learning curve. So we could try to come up with a plan to make sure that everything is spaced out and people are trying to read all the signage that we had to put up this year. But unless you're there being vocal and trying to control the crowds and space them out using a physical presence of labor, then it was not going to be up to the public to space themselves out. Because as soon as there was a lapse in an employee spacing out lines, they immediately collapsed upon each other, and the 6-foot spacing guideline went to the wayside. So in summary, I would say that for our experience this year, it was, I guess, a positive one. The 3 things that we're going to continue on is making sure that we're posting signage in the future if COVID is still a thing, which I hope it isn't. Making sure that employees and spacing markers are set up accordingly. And we're going to continue using our reservation system to break up the crowds. And the one thing that I do want to comment on with the reservation system is that you need to be ultra specific. And if you're not ultra specific, then you're going to get thousands of emails about the most minor thing that you would never even think of. So when you're writing out reservations, make sure that you do so like you're speaking to a toddler. That way, hopefully it might alleviate some of the volume of emails you might see. And that's about it.
On the plus side, if you do that, you do save some time giving people a spiel when they come in. So
yeah. I know, but you definitely are going to you're definitely going to do that no matter what you say.
We found that we had, if we could, avoid one extra person at admissions because the check-in was a little bit smoother, I had to have someone spend more than half of their full-time job just dealing with reservation, customer service, emails, etc.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we don't have a very large staff, so it's up to my brother and I to do all that. So there was some late nights. My brother and I are also middle school teachers, so we were doing double duty with those emails. But eventually we got the hang of it, and we were able to reduce that volume of emails and questions pretty considerably when we started rewriting all of the Eventbrite events.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Andrew. I appreciate that.
Randy, could I interject something for
Sure.
just a second? I wanted to welcome Dr. Betsy Lamb, who took the time out of her very busy schedule up in Ithaca and around the state to join us tonight. And Betsy, welcome. Most of you know Dr. Lamb's name. She's the preeminent and one of the foremost IPM experts in agriculture. I'm about to say in New York State, but I think her reputation is throughout the Northeast of the United States. And she's been very helpful to all the farmers throughout New York during this pandemic, sending suggestions out, sending some guidance out. So Dr. Lamb, we just want to thank you, and we so appreciate your taking the time to be with us tonight.
Thanks, Barbara. And it's nice to see everyone, the ones that I know and the ones that I don't. And I'm actually gathering information for a talk I have to do at the Producers Expo. So you're all very helpful. And sorry, my video won't work for some reason. So you're stuck seeing a static picture of me. but thank you. I'm not the most important person here at any rate. So.
Yeah, thanks, Betsy, for joining us. And also, I'm looking forward to buying Cordera, but I can't find a nursery that's growing it yet.
Oh, yeah, I've had some other people ask. So if you find it, let me know.
Okay. So next up, we have Ashley, who's joined us.
Hi, everyone. Ashley Yazzo here from Summit Farm. Can you see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Sorry I was late. When COVID first started, for someone like me, we have about 20 lesson horses. We panicked because how are they all going to get fed and who's going to pay for them, and what's going to happen, and with staff and stuff. So immediately when we were shut down, I sent them to Armenia and turned all of them out until I knew more. Once we were able to get back, we did allow our boarders to come in, which is, about 6 of them, and some of them don't even, they're very rare to come. So we let them in. We made sure that they met us in the indoor ring. The reins got sanitized before they got on. They got sanitized after they got on. They had to sanitize their hands. Now that we're fully back up and running, and it's definitely the busiest year that we've ever had, because everybody wants to get out and do something. And I have to say, we're at 200 lessons a week. I have not seen it slow down since we are going into the indoor. People are very careful about wearing their masks. My guys all wear their masks all the time, and my trainers, and we've got hand sanitizer all over, and we take everybody's temperature before they even step foot into the indoor to get on. We recently, this past weekend, had to send one of the students away because she had like 101. And we didn't know how the parents were going to take it, but they were understanding, and they agreed, and they were cool with it. So we were safe there because she didn't, wasn't in contact with anybody. That being said, I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the wintertime. It's now that the time has changed, the lighting, we are ending up, like tonight, there was more people in the indoor that I wanted to be. Again, that when they get on, they take their masks off, and the trainers stay in the middle and wear their masks. And sometimes you do have to take your mask off when you're teaching, but I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward. It's weird. We actually have had pony parties too. And obviously it's a much smaller group of people. The kids they have 5 friends, and they come and they stay outside, and everybody just bundles up. And it's, I guess you could say it's their bubble of their family. And then we stay as far away as possible. But we do have little kids that we have to stay next to. My trainers have to stay next to while they're riding. So they just make sure that they wear their masks. And some of the kids, when the kids are that little, they keep their mask on. And then once they're set free, they're allowed to remove their mask. But I think in this case, you just have to not panic and know that it's happening to everybody. And thank God for funding. We got PPP, we got the SBA loan, just in a God forbid, what if this happens again? And we didn't know how long it was going to last for. And that helped us. It's just like a safety net. But I hope it doesn't come through. But it's, now that we have this many lessons, we do have a lot more people coming during the day, I think, because the kids are, they go to school 2 days a week, and so it is very spread out. But it's going to get tougher the more that when it starts snowing and such. But I think that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate your input. It sounds like it's going to be tougher as the indoor season starts to keep everybody safe. So next up, we have Tim Solinger.
Hello, everybody. Hear me? All right. Yeah, so whole new set of challenges this season, obviously, for all of us. For us, it was, we're open year round here at Salinger, 7 days a week, year round. We are primarily a farm market bakery store. We're an apple orchard, peaches, pears, plums, nectarines. But we are different in the fact that we do not really participate with pick your own. So that gave us a whole different set of challenges with our customer base. When COVID first hit, we saw a huge uptick in curbside orders. So we're still trying to build a good system for our customers to order and prepay, and we're looking to probably still do 30 to 50 curbside orders a day, just filling fruit orders, produce, baked goods, anything that they could get that they didn't want to go to the grocery store for. So we saw a pretty significant uptick in business in March, April as well, similar to Fishkill. Our biggest challenges this year were definitely maintaining social distancing in our store during our peak seasons. We are sort of in the group of Southern Hudson Valley with Wilkins and Stewart's and Outhouse and Harvest Moon. Salinger's is the only farm that does not do pick your own. So what we saw, and I'm sure, a direct result of doing all the reservations, was a lot of families didn't have reservations when they showed up to Harvest Moon or Outhouse, which are under a mile away from us. So for us, the biggest challenge was trying to take on that overflow that was coming to our farm stand because we didn't have set reservations on when you could shop. And that was definitely a challenge for us. I did get in contact with Ags and Markets about sort of what my max occupancy should be. Never really got a set number on what the state thought we should do. So we sort of implemented a number of about 45 people in the store shopping at one time. We're roughly around 5,000 to 6,000 square feet of shopping space. But we do have about 7 garage doors open during the whole time. So we wanted to have as much airflow as possible. One of the first things we did in March was actually implement every customer had to wear gloves to enter our shop. So not only did everyone have masks, we had dots on the floor for social distancing and lines, but we asked that every shopper wear gloves. And it was a little crazy chasing people down as they walked in, but we literally brought on an extra staff member just to deal with handing out gloves to our customers. Some people obviously thought that was infringing on their rights, but we stuck to it, and we had a lot of positive feedback from our customer base. We have a lot of retirees, a lot of older shoppers, and they really, I still get 2 to 4 emails a day saying thank you for having gloves and making that part of your shopping experience. So we had a lot of positive feedback from having gloves, and we're sticking to it. Right now it is optional. We've just had a hard time getting a lot of gloves, and obviously everyone's noticed that the costs have gone up 300 to 400% for these type of materials, and I don't think they're going to get any easier to find over the next few months. But that was a big thing to help our customers feel safe. Definitely the hardest part for us during our September-October rush was keeping people in safe distances when checking out. We did the best we could with 4 checkout lanes, Unfortunately, our parking lot comes right to the front door. Didn't have a lot of space for lines outside. And we thought about doing the Stu Leonard's method and having a one-way shopping aisle, but just the way of our layout of our store, it was sort of difficult to accomplish that. I've talked with Randy briefly about Thanksgiving. For us, we do a lot of pies this week. Next week, we'll probably have upwards of 5,000 pies made in 3 days, and trying to make sure people feel safe getting their Thanksgiving pies is definitely a priority for us. So we're moving all of our pie lines to moving outside and coming in a 6 feet spacing, trying to keep the numbers down as much as we can to that 40 to 45 person count. But it's definitely presented us challenges where we need to rethink the layout of our store, more so if we're having numbers of these size numbers of guests coming in for next fall, if God forbid we're still in this situation next year. For us, again, we were doing some small pick your own groups on a reservation basis, but we're really not built for that. So for us, it was really trying to deal with the overflow from all the other farms. But we've had a strong year. Lots of families down here don't have a lot to do, unfortunately, right now. So the farms became a very popular place to go, and we're just trying to provide the safest shopping experience for them. So for us, moving forward, the most important thing for us is going to be building out our curbside pickup. We're not planning on doing any delivery system, but we have a lot of folks that do rely on us for their meals now. We're doing a lot of savory cooking. We brought in baked breads. I've got a 3-man team cooking 6 days a week to do grab and go prepared food. So anything where people can buy frozen, safe food to take home, it's going to be sort of a replacement for restaurants if they can't go out. So we're looking forward to this winter and staying busy and staying safe. We've been very fortunate as well, knock on wood. None of our staff has had any illnesses. We did have a good amount of people that would have, we had some people go away on vacations, and we tried to implement a 14-day policy for staying away, getting tested before coming back. So we've been pretty on top of all of these issues as far as any sickness coming back into the business. But again, we've been very fortunate, and just looking to keep that going for the rest of the winter.
Okay, thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
I appreciate those inputs. Next up, Patty Peckham.
There, am I unmuted? I have a horse farm as well. It's primarily a boarding farm like Mike's. We have about 30 horses at the farm. And when we had to shut down to customers in March through mid to late May, I chatted with Mike quite a bit, and we had a hard time finding guidance from Ag and Markets, from Cornell. We did eventually get some good guidance from those places, and CDC, and developed plans for our staff and plans for our customers. I think that Mike and I and Ashley all were on the same page with our farms in that we did not let the customers come in. We met them outside. Everyone wore masks. I did develop through help from my daughter a Google form that we send to the clients once a month, and it asks them to put down their temperature. It's like 2 questions. Do you have any symptoms of COVID, and what is your temperature today? And they just type in the answer either on their phone or on their email, and it spits right into a spreadsheet that I keep in the office. Nobody sees it, so their health is protected, the privacy and all that is protected. And I have a record of everybody has no fever when they come to the farm. as far as staff is concerned, we have a paper chart. And when they arrive at work, they take their temperature, write down their temperature on that chart. So if somebody has some contact tracing or anything like that, I can look at who has been to the farm and see that they didn't have a temperature and didn't have COVID symptoms that day. And if we did have somebody with a temperature, we would ask them not to come. The vets and the blacksmiths, they also get their temperatures taken when they come, and everybody wears masks. Social distancing protocols are in place. We got a porta-john outdoors that has a sink in it. So only staff is allowed to use the restroom in the barn. Everybody else has to use the porta-john. It's disinfected a couple times through the day, as well as the shared areas at our farm are cleaned and disinfected. The guys disinfect their tools at the end of the day, cross ties, brushes, that kind of thing, tack. Cornell Cooperative and Barbara Sachs was pretty terrific about getting us gallons of hand sanitizer and lots of masks. And I think that that should be advertised a lot, because she did a great job reaching out and getting that stuff to us. And so that was good. And that's all for free. And that's big, because you couldn't find hand sanitizer in the grocery stores at that time. So it enabled us to bring our own hand sanitizer on the road when we went to the horse shows. We brought a little pavilion tent where even at the horse shows, which was set up in the tent, we didn't have our customers come into the tent to the stalls. They had a little seating area, pavilion with some hand sanitizer, and they could be outdoors and away from our staff. One of my biggest priorities is to keep my grooms protected and my trainers protected from the public, because I don't know what I'd do if they got sick. You know, we really depend on our staff immensely. I've had a couple of clients that have gone on some trips. We just had a girl come back from California, and we told her, well, she came back November 2nd, and November 3rd was the day that Governor Cuomo changed the quarantine rules to the get a test before you go, and then 4 days, you're all right. But because they returned on the 2nd, they had to comply with the 14-day rule. So we asked her to do that, and they were fine. In fact, they appreciated the fact that we were asking them to comply and keep everybody safe, because that keeps the customers safe as well, knowing that the barn is compliant with the regulations, I think. We had I have writing rules. You have to post all kinds of rules and posters and English and Spanish in your facility. We did all of that. Like Mike did, there was no hanging out. If we had little kids, the parent had to stay in the car. They couldn't just drop the kids off and run down, do their grocery shopping and come back and pick them up like they like to do sometimes. It is, ride your horse and go, which is sort of sad, because as Mike was saying too, you miss the social activity, and it's nice for the kids to have their friends and brush their ponies, but that kind of thing had to be curtailed this summer, which is too bad. Hopefully that can come back at some point. Our riding and training lessons by appointment only, limits on the number of horses in the ring. And as we head towards the winter, about half my horses will go south to Florida. So that kind of will reduce the numbers in the ring, by itself. So we are going to limit, to 4 to 5 horses in the ring at a time, but I don't think that should not be a problem. We had employer training. I mentioned we had the travel to work letters for essential employees that New York State suggested so that early on in COVID, I was talking to a lady at the post office, and she said when she was driving to work, the policeman stopped her as she was getting off the Taconic and wanted to see her travel to work papers, and she worked for the post office. So when I heard that, I got travel to work papers for my staff too, in case they got stopped being as essential workers on farms. Nobody so far, knock wood, has been stopped, but you know, you never know how things go around. The other thing that, as far as business management, I work with Farm Credit, which is my bank, Farm Credit East, and they gave us a 3-month delay on our mortgage and on our credit line. So May, June, and July, I think it was June, July, August. Those 3 months are tacked on to the end in 25 years, which will be pretty amazing if I'm still working at that point in time. But at any rate, it helped us a lot with cash flow to do that. I also was able to get PPP. I submitted it in the spring. I got my PPP May 1st, and I was working on my forgiveness the last week in October. I had my accountant help me because I didn't want to mess that one up. But there are limits, time limits on when you need to ask for your forgiveness on your PPP loan. So check with your accountant and SBA to find out when that is for you, because you know, they change the rules all the time on that thing. So you want to stay up on it. So if you don't ask for forgiveness within the allotted time period, they will automatically turn it into a loan. I think the interest rate is very low. I think it's 1%, but it's still money that you have to pay back. We were lucky. We were able to maintain our staff at pre-COVID levels. We didn't have to dock anybody's pay. We didn't have to cut anybody, thanks to PPP and pushing the mortgage down the road. We did have loss of revenue because of horse shows canceling March through May. That was significant. And we stopped spending money on unnecessary items, and we really looked at our inventory and didn't buy anything unnecessary at all. But we were able to continue, and we ended up actually having a pretty good summer. Like Ashley said, there was nothing else for the kids to do. They couldn't go to summer camp. It was a place where people could get outdoors and have some sort of sense of normalcy. And horses are pretty terrific animals for anybody to be around. So it was a nice environment to be able to continue to work with them. So going forward, you know, are there things that I would bring from our limitations forward? Probably not. I mean, I think that everybody would like to get back to them in my industry or my world. I think people would like to get back to not limiting the amount of people in the ring, to letting people come and watch their kids ride and have the social experience as well as just the riding experience. But I don't see that happening at this point for the next 6 months till a vaccine gets kicked in, hopefully. I think that's about all I can add to Ashley and Mike on about the horses. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Patty. So before we go to the questions we have, I just wanted to add some stuff that I've had to experience on our farm. For those of you who don't know, we grow peaches, apples, pumpkins, and Christmas trees, and our selling season is basically August through December. We did do the one-way thing through our market. We found that worked very well, and for some reason, I guess people seem to get closer to the product and seem to have bought more as they went one way through the market. And we controlled the numbers by having a staff member outside the market counting the number of people. So we kept a limit on the number of people at the market at any one time. And then we moved our cash registers outside. So it gave us a way of social distancing everybody at that point. On our bakery, we kind of did the same thing. We closed the doors and people order at the window and you pick up at the door. So the line for the bakery was outside, and then we put hay bales 6 feet apart. So that pretty much gave them a marker so we could spread people out waiting for their baked good items. I did spend a lot of time walking around the farm telling people to put their mask on or wear their mask properly. Some people did not like me telling them that, but there were a lot more that said to me, "Thank you for saying that to him," or "Thank you for telling them that." They appreciated that. We did not go to a reservation system during the apple season. We chose to limit the crowd by the number of cars in our lot. Basically, we parked 40% of our normal capacity. So when we reached that limit, we would basically close at the gate and tell the cars that we were at capacity and they had to come back later. Most of them responded, "What do you mean you're at capacity? You're an outdoor activity. Why is there a capacity limit?" And I said, "Well, you need to talk to the governor about that." So, but that was it was 8 days that happened, 8 Saturdays and Sundays. It was a difficult time at the gate, kind of trying to control the numbers and getting the cars to keep moving because we're on a 2-lane road. But that's the way we did it. Whether I'd change that in the future, I don't know. Because now that we're moving to Christmas trees, we have decided to go to a reservation system. We have not used either of the platforms that Josh or Andrew used. We're using peak.com. They were able to set it up for us in a week's time. And what we're doing is doing basically during the weekends, 40 slots an hour, and during the weekdays, about 10 slots every hour. So you make a reservation for a tree, not for the number of people, but if you're going to buy it for each tree, there's a reservation with a deposit, which then gets credited towards your trees. So we'll see how that works. That starts the day after Thanksgiving. We did do a lot with our help, though. We use a lot of high school kids. So it was, our concern was, we don't know what these high school kids are doing once they leave the farm and where they go or what they do. So we were very conscientious about which high school kids we hired because we knew their history. We also made them fill out an online questionnaire every day before they arrived at the farm. And they also had to have their temperatures checked, wash their hands as they started work. We also spread them out and they only worked in one position. If we had brothers and sisters, they worked usually together at one location. We didn't have them move around. We did, say in the bakery, some would just work in the kitchen area. Others would work in, selling the drinks or preparing the drinks. So we tried to stop crisscrossing any of the workers. But we also kept track of if there were incidences of positive test from anybody in the local high schools. If we heard that there was a positive test in Yorktown High School, we immediately tried to find out what grade, who it was, do any of our employees have a class with that person or in that grade? And if so, that individual was quarantined for 14 days. So we didn't take any chances on that. And they all understood it and they all lived by that. That was not a problem. But we felt that was really important to try to keep not only all of our staff safe, but them safe as well. So those were the major things that we tried to do. Obviously, we got rid of the tractor ride this year, and we spread out the people in the pick your own. My entrance one far end of the field and exit in the other end of the field to try to keep people spread out as much as possible. And I don't know if anybody else got inspected, but I did get inspected on a Saturday by Ag and Markets. The inspector showed up at my gate at about noontime on a Saturday, and I asked, Sergio, what are you doing here? She says, oh, I have a directive from the Commissioner of Ag to inspect you today. So he did. He came in and inspect us. His only one comment was that maybe our people in our bakery line were a little too close together. But that was it. So, you know, we always had the fear that maybe that would happen, and it did. So, but that's all I think I have to add, and I appreciate everybody's comments. I think there are some questions, and Lita, maybe you can read the questions for us and we can direct them to whoever.
Sure. Well, some of them were answered, but a question for Randy, Josh, Andrew, and Tim is, has anyone had a chance to compare sales and visitors this year versus past years?
The sales were, even though we were down in the total number of people, and we were down in total quantity of apples because of freeze in May. I would say that dollar wise, we're just a little bit below last year.
Yeah, just to piggyback on that, weekday sales definitely increased, especially with hybrid schedules being implemented in schools, many schools being fully remote. I feel like there's a lot of angst of being locked up inside, and a lot of people wanted to get out during the week. As far as weekends go, the number of cars that we parked this year was comparable to last year, if not better. I feel like a lot of people kind of take these reservation systems as a, it's like, all right, we better get one. So they filled up the weekends way more than I thought that they were going to this year. And we've had more like busy weekends spread out through the end of September and October than we did in previous years, for sure.
The weekday sales were definitely up. I mean, to the point of maybe, 5 times above a normal week than they have in previous years. A lot more people coming during the week.
Similar for us.
Yeah.
We had, I think, a lot more product offerings because of COVID. We started offering a lot of stuff that, I mean, we're still selling toilet paper and paper towels here, and people still appreciate it. The folks that don't want to go to a grocery store still will go and grab 2 rolls of each, and we had limits on that. I would definitely say we saw an earlier hit as well, whereas typically it'd be late September and all of October. We saw right from Labor Day on bigger crowds on the weekends and definitely midweek as well. But for us, we were seeing numbers that we would expect over Columbus Day weekend in early to mid-September, which was pretty shocking. But like I said, for us, being next to 4 pick your own orchards, we sort of became the overflow for where they could go if they didn't have a reservation. So hard to quantify what percentage came because of just more shoppers coming to us on their own free will, and also just having the broader spectrum of products to offer them during the outbreak.
Our experience was similar. I actually, one of the inadvertent, I guess, benefits of COVID shaking things up, and kind of forcing us to move to this reservation system was then, asking people to make an upfront purchase. We, like I was saying before, we did an apple picking reservation that would be good for up to 5 people. But that was, purchasing a full half bushel bag. And I think I hadn't realized fully until seeing the difference this year, how much over the past 10 years the kind of apple picking crowd had gone from picking a lot of apples to not picking very many. But so the big surprise was like, even though we capped our admission at between 50 and 60% of our capacity, and as a result, our very busiest days, were not, they were like 60-70% of our peak day last year, but we had 10 of them instead of a few of them. But also the big, I guess, lesson was that we figured that the average reservation group was two to three people picking, and paying for and picking a 20-pound bag of apples. But our apple revenue, the actual picking revenue was way up. So it's just showing that like the average customer in the past was probably picking 5 pounds of apples or less. And, my intention was not to force everyone to buy more, but it was sort of like, we want to prioritize these reservations for people who are serious about apple picking and not people who just want to come hang out. And by doing that, we ended up with less customers, but selling more apples. And then a lot of things like donuts and the bakery, we're kind of way past capacity on our peak days in a normal year anyway. So even though we might have 60% as many people over the course of one day, we were able to serve more of them. And so like the auxiliary sources of revenue, like value-added products, farm store sales, were not down proportionally. So, we ended up like kind of through mixture of chance and strategy, doing overall having a better apple season than last year. And like I said before, made up for a really difficult summer.
So some of the questions have been answered, but one question to discuss is, as cases of COVID are increasing, what support would be the most helpful? Guidance, regulation, signage, support programs, materials, PPE, supplies, etc. What are people finding would be the most helpful moving forward?
I just wanted to apologize a little bit from when I started talking about last spring, because I think that what I didn't realize was nobody had the answers at that time in March. And I was trying to get some answers from people I considered experts, ag and markets, the vets from Department of Animal Industries, Cornell, and everybody was struggling and swimming around and trying to figure out what to say. I am hoping that information now is going to be better because we've all had a little more experience. The science is starting, to get better. And, but I think that if ag and markets can take the lead, or Cornell can take the lead and keep giving us information and guidance, now that maybe they will have some, that would be great. I agree with Michael that people are getting a little lax, COVID fatigue. If your family unit has been healthy, if you're that fortunate to be healthy, you get a little bit like, well, I'm not getting sick, so let me just try this, and that we want to make sure that we stay strong and stay secure with the protocol that we're given. But I think that somehow getting the word out from Cornell Cooperative, if they're doing the mask and hand sanitizer program again, that would be great. I think that if we can lobby our Congress people and our state people to really get more loans out to small businesses and grants and help people through this pandemic. I mean, it is kind of a tough go. I think we were all lucky in the summer to be having businesses that are outdoors. We're all looking, these are great strategies that all you guys are doing with your farm stores to stay current through the winter. But I think that if we can depend on Ag and Markets more to continue to give us clear guidance. I went before this meeting, I went on Ag and Markets website and I didn't see anything updated since early summer. Now, maybe I'm not a good looker, but Barbara's shaking her head. So I think Cornell maybe is on top of things, but
You won't find it there. Let's put it that
yeah.
way.
Oh, you're agreeing with me. Okay. But anyway, that's what I would say. I don't know who to look to. If we could find some coordination, that would be really helpful.
You'll find it in Betsy Lamb's emails.
Okay.
She is prolific in sending out these links to everything you can think of to help you. I mean, I've tried to share them with as many people as I can think.
I don't know much about horses, and I know that equine took a long time to really get those pieces put in together, but I'm happy to keep looking. So yeah, if you have questions, I'll see if I can find someone who can answer.
Okay, great. And do you want to share with the group in the chat box how to reach you? What's
I
your?
did. I put it in there, and it says I have Christmas tree and greenhouse lists. Excuse me, if you're interested. But my email is EML for Elizabeth Margaret Lamb 38@cornell.edu.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you. I also had a question to fellow farmers. Did anybody feel they needed to raise their fees to drive revenue? I know that before COVID hit, we were talking about raising our fees just to keep up with cost of living charges, but then we didn't feel like we could. So we never raised our rates. Did anybody raise their rates to drive revenue because of any loss of revenue? How are people handling that? If that's not too intrusive a question.
We raised some of our prices, but mostly we did it as a result of increased cost. Cost of materials or cost of, whatever goods we were bringing in, and cost of labor, because we do hire a lot of high school kids and we pay minimum wage, but that was up $1 an hour across the board. So that's why we went up on some of our prices. Not because I felt I was going to get the impact from COVID.
Not COVID related, just cost of living related, basically.
Didn't raise our prices, but to this vein of conversation, I think what would be very helpful would be another round of stimulus and another round of PPP money or some type of stimulus or program that would be applicable and equitable for all of our businesses, because you never know what's really going to be around the corner, like in the winter months now. And it could slow down, and it would help to have some additional funds that you could rely upon to kind of bridge the gap from now until, I'm viewing at the virus press releases as hopefully the beginning of the end of this, but we need to get through the winter season, and so we don't know what, let's say, things will be like 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, and the stimulus money would be so helpful to have that cushion, to get you through, let's say, until the next year's outdoor season.
Yeah, and does anybody know, is Farm Bureau lobbying for farmers with government officials, or what is the American Horse Council? Those are the only two real lobbying agencies I'm aware of for farms and horses. I don't think our PHA or our USC HJA does any of that kind of work for us. But what do you guys think? Is Farm Bureau the way to contact and see if they can put some pressure on our Congress to get another stimulus act through?
Seems like it will happen at some point. I mean, the election and president-elect, and it seems to be stuck at the moment. And I wish that it would move through at some point. I think it would help all the businesses that we talked about today, to have another round.
Yeah. So we should send money to Georgia. get the Senate flipped. Sorry.
But it would help, because it would be a cushion, and I think that would be very helpful, to have some more funds that were there in whatever shape or form the next round would be.
Guys, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to jump off in a minute or two. Just want to give warning, but I do agree. I think the hand sanitizer we got from Cornell was great. Like PPP, we can get it, but it's expensive. I think if they're, in terms of small things that could be done, I feel like if essential businesses with essential workers had more access to low cost available cheap PPE, that would be great. Of course, the biggest thing for us this year was the PPP. Sorry, I'm getting PPE and PPP mixed up. The PPP loan or grant, was pretty critical, and we wouldn't have been out of business without it. But I'm sure glad we had it, and I know there's another apple orchard in Vermont that had 27 staff members come down with COVID at the same time at the peak of their season, and had to shut down their operations for 2 weeks. And I, just putting myself in their shoes, I don't know if we'd make it through a season or an event like that. So some sort of protection, hazard protection for, because it was great to have the quick PPP money, but I know that some businesses got it that didn't need it. And, there's a lot of funds flying around, and, I feel like really targeted emergency funds for if that sort of thing happens, are going to be critical to keep, farms that, or any local business, essential business that, has bad luck. And, how easy that is right now. So thank you, everyone.
Great, thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Any other questions in there, Lita?
Well, I think most of them have been answered. Early on, there was an ask about whether the reservation system that some of you have used, you're going to keep using. I know Josh said that he plans to. I'm not sure, Andrew, if you answered that, whether you plan to continue with the reservation system next year, even, let's hope we're post-COVID at some point, but.
Yeah, I think that we're definitely going to keep using the reservation system. It provided a more enjoyable experience all around, without, noting the safety of, being spread out. But I think a lot of people were thanking me and a lot of our employees for stopping the mayhem that ensues when you're having a very busy fall weekend and the temperatures and the weather are cooperating for you. The other thing that really helped us out this year with the reservation system was keeping the roads clear. A lot of the times the county sends up their sheriffs, and their sheriffs were left doing nothing on the weekends as they got sent up, and there wasn't any traffic, which was great. We didn't have any complaints from our town supervisor, and the best part about it is that all the emergency safety vehicles, fire department, ambulance, police department, they could all get up and down the main road that kind of splits our town in half very easily. And the other thing about the reservation system, if people are considering using it, is that you can park an insane amount of cars very, very quickly, and it just expedites the entire process. So using these apps that are accessible to us makes things much easier, and it's a cleaner way of checking people in and knowing who's on your farm. So that's something we're definitely going to continue using.
That's helpful. Patty had asked if I would just speak for a minute on our farm. Steve and I have an alpaca farm just right across from Arcadia, from Patty's farm. And, you know, agritourism is a big part of our business, but Steve and I pretty much made the decision to close down to the public for the season, just because we have so many visitors from all over, and we felt it wouldn't be easy to control. But we did adapt. We've been doing Zoom meetings, FaceTime farm tours, shopping both online. We have a farm store where we sell our yarn and beautiful handmade products from alpaca yarn. And now we're really into our season now with the holiday shoppers and people looking for the, you know, hats and socks and stuff. And we're doing some private appointments, but we're doing a lot of it. It's a little more time consuming, but I'm in the shop and either FaceTiming or texting or talking to somebody and helping them find what they want, and then either shipping it or doing curbside, barnside pickup. And we have been doing some photo shoots that we do here, and they have just been all outdoors. We haven't been letting people use the barns. So we'll see how things are going forward. But I mean, you know, we made the decision to shut down, but as other farmers have said, people really want to come, and every day I'm fielding, you know, a dozen or more requests for farm tours, which we suspended for the time being. I have a nice copy and paste that goes into the email back to people. So we'll see how things are moving forward, but we just chose to stay as safe as possible. And if we had more staff and we had somebody overseeing things, that would be a different story, but we really don't at this point.
In the spring, we did do some free curbside composted manure pickup for friends and neighbors.
Yes, we do offer that.
Okay, well, I think we're getting to the end of our time, and I appreciate everybody joining in and your comments, and hopefully we've given some ideas to other people to help them with their farms and how to maybe continue through this COVID until we're done with it, so that we can go back to what was somewhat a normal lifestyle. Patty,
yeah, thank you to everybody that contributed, and Randy especially, thank you for monitoring the roundtable. That was a terrific idea that you had, and I think it worked great. And Barbara, I see that, I think the little recording button is on. Were you able to record this meeting? And if so, is there a place where if someone else wanted to rehear what people are doing, a link available at some point?
I'm going to be checking that tonight to see if it came out okay, and if there's a way that I can transmit it elsewhere, either post it on our website or send it to you for the county's website. So I'm going to be checking on that a little bit later this evening.
Okay, well, if anybody has any interest, they can email me at westchesteragboard@gmail.com, and I will try to get you to the right spot after that. And again, this was really terrific, and I hope we have more of these Zoom meetings that allows people to come and listen, and if their time is tight, not have to drive somewhere. But thank you so much to all of our farmers, and thank you to everyone that came online to join us. And Barbara, especially, thank you for running the technology. Good job.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you, everyone. It's great to stay connected and for all of us to help support one another and with our ideas and feedback, and hopefully we can stay connected moving forward.
Yes, we have some terrific organizations, Cornell Cooperative, Westchester Agricultural Council, Watershed Agricultural Council, sorry, Gibson, and Ag and Markets. And so hopefully we'll be able to stay stronger together and wear our masks and go forward and be successful.
And soil and water also.
And soil and water, yeah. Okay, thank you. I guess we are done.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you,
thank you.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Sounds pretty good.
Yeah, good job. Good job. Anybody have any, I guess if you have any takeaways, write them down and we'll get another Zoom meeting out. I think we don't have to, we'll throw some emails out for a Zoom meeting for in a month or so, and we can go forward from there, I guess. All right. David, do you have any, I see you're still on. Do you have any comments, or is he just not on?
No, I'm here. That was really very interesting. I enjoyed the conversations and the input from the farmers. It's always special to hear things firsthand. So I'd like to follow up, maybe review this and see if we can't develop some policies going forward to see if there are things the county can do to better prepare or help farmers better prepare for such, this type of an incident. We are preparing our hazard mitigation plan. We just put the RFP out. So I'd like to, so that process will be going on over the next 6 to 8 months. And I'd like to kind of take a closer look at farms and hazard mitigation planning for pandemics and other types of natural, hazards that might impact farm operations.
Yeah, I thought it was really fascinating how the people in the orchards actually making these changes to adapt to COVID liked what they did, and it worked more beneficially for their businesses. That was interesting. And they had how creative they got, like the one guy's doing foods to go and grab bags and hired chefs, and it's interesting.
Yeah, it really is interesting to see how stress does inspire creativity, that they might take advantage. They probably would have never tried some of these things. They probably thought about them for a long time, but they've never really tried them until they had to. And so maybe, that's good. Those are always, good stories to hear as well.
Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Mike.
Similar, am I unmuted now? Yeah. With the orchards, I think they experienced a similar scenario where people were looking for something to do. And with the horse farms, it was like that, they wanted somewhere to go, occupy the day, and I'm sure that they experienced a lot of that too, like, let's go pick apples, let's do something outside. And, it was a time for like, hey, what do we do with our time with kids and all of that? So, people came to the farm.
Yeah.
People came.
And didn't you find that I found that we were we were nervous about showing too far away, but going to Saratoga or going to Princeton, New Jersey, and everybody was like so excited about going to a horse show that we had more people sign up to go to the horse shows than we often do. It was a more popular, I guess, because people couldn't send their kids away and stuff. So we had more people going.
What was difficult, I don't know if you went to Tryon for any of that.
No.
You know, to explain to the others, there was national finals that were very fragile. And so these events normally are held in stadiums, and they opted to run them in one, really two venues, 3 weeks in North Carolina in Tryon, which has very little infrastructure. And so that was challenging for our group to travel to North Carolina. Most everyone opted to drive, but you know, eating out and food and things like that was tricky. And the last championship was in Lexington, Kentucky, and then so there was, you know, traveling there, which was also complicated. And a lot of sporting venues and a lot of national finals in all sports have been canceled, and it was good that these actually happened because they're kind of done in the history book, and you know, people weren't disappointed, and I'm glad it's done and we got through it, you know, without any cases or incidents or cancellations.
Yeah. Well, when we went to, Molly went to, my business partner Molly went to Kentucky in the summer to go to pony finals, and we went for the horse show before to prepare the student, and then we're right there ready to go, and somebody tested, two or three people tested positive for COVID on that Saturday, I think, and they just shut it down. And so we're like calling the horse transport company trying to get out of there, and then there was 14-day quarantine for people that went there when they returned. So that was, we didn't go back to Kentucky for the finals from that.
Right.
And
yeah, and that was a tricky thing. And after that happened, I had like a policy change where I had people sign that if we embarked on a horse show and the horses left and they could cancel, that, you know, we had to be responsible for the incurred charges.
Yeah, because that was an expensive little weekend.
Yeah,
and
for a whole lot of nothing.
For a whole lot of nothing. I mean, we went to Ohio for Capital Challenge, and we rented a little double wide trailer right across from the showgrounds. So we had very little exposure to the town. But when we did go in, you know, it was very difficult to find food basically to eat. And no, people weren't wearing masks, and it was kind of scary.
I didn't
We
go
really
to those
stayed out.
finals because I didn't want to drive for 12 hours, and my job isn't really at those finals, like training, like, you know, I just go really work. But my brother said the same thing, that, you know, it was in the South, and the level, you know, of, let's say, concern or even belief in it.
Well, yeah, people get mad at you for wearing a mask. It's crazy.
So he said, you know, it's very odd to go to a supermarket, you know, all the locals don't have masks on.
Yeah.
Well, I have to sign off. Thank you, Patty.
Thanks,
And
Mike.
it's good and Barbara. And I like the beard, David. It's good. Took me a minute to recognize you.
You have to get on more of our Zoom meetings, Mike.
Yeah, I guess I missed, I think, well, I was on one and it didn't have
Pre-beard. Yeah, it was pre-beard.
just audio. So.
It's going for the Nordic look, the Viking look.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
That's good. That's good. Well, stay safe, everyone, and
you too.
Thanks, Mike.
Enjoy the holiday.
Yes. Exactly.
Yeah.
I know, now it reminded me, I have to get over to Salinger's and get my pies.
Yeah.
I even sent a private message to Tim. I was like, hey, how do I get my pie order in?
Go online and reserve it. Yeah.
I am going to do that. I'm going to do that. All right, everyone.
All right,
Happy
thanks very
Thanksgiving.
much.
Have a nice night.
Thank
Thanks
you.
to everybody for
Thank
putting this
you.
together.
Take care.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thank you.